Hello and welcome to another Sacred Games Daily where we talk about the latest gaming news. And today it is March 12th, 2024, and we have Joshua Hargis with us today from the Sacred Icon podcast, our main show, coming over to join us, talking about the latest gaming news. We got a few things to get into today. How are you doing today, Joe?
Joe, how you doing? I love you so much, man. It's just so nice to be
I love you too, Josh. I'm doing well. I'm ecstatic that Josh is here. I mean,
right?
this is special. This is special.
Yeah,
I love this guy.
I feel like you know, Joe and I have had a couple content endeavors, and either panned out somewhat or not at all. And this feels like it's on a really good track. And then we got Josh in here. We have a celebrity already amongst us.
There we go, baby.
Wow. I will take 30 minutes of this just being compliments toward myself.
Okay, well, we'll get into it then, Josh.
Oh, my. Oh, my God.
First thing we want to talk about today, guys, is the final previews for Rise of the Rōnin came out. For those of you that don't know, Rise of the Rōnin is a PS5 exclusive, not by a PlayStation-owned studio, but like a second party. It's coming out here relatively soon, and I just want to kind of go through a preview roundup to see what people are saying about this game and kind of get a hype check from you guys and how we think this game will do. So going over first to IGN, their preview for Rise of the Rōnin. It says, Rise of the Rōnin is poised to give players a lot to dive into, and while it doesn't quite live up to the PlayStation's first-party open-world exclusives in the graphics department, the developers at Team Ninja have focused on what's important: an engaging story that has a great hook to keep you exploring, fun gameplay system that will keep you striving to perfect your skills, and all of that is found alongside a smattering of fun activities to challenge yourself with. I can't wait to see how it all comes together when Rōnin launches later this month. Moving on to GameSpot. Another departure for Team Ninja is the chance to affect the story through your decisions. I encountered a small taste of this when one of the early bosses started begging for his life. I let him live because I was curious to see how this choice might play out in the future. This aspect of the game has me eager to progress beyond Rise of the Rōnin's opening hours, while the potential evolution of its already excellent combat is another reason for optimism. In stepping out of its comfort zone, Team Ninja seems to have discovered a winning formula by mixing its expertise in melee combat with the inherent freedom of an open world and a more lenient approach to difficulty. I'm excited to see how the final game shapes up. We have another preview from Eurogamer. There's a lot going on, and all these different elements could end up as a right mess, but it all hangs together remarkably well, at least in these early stages. After a short linear opening, you're set off the leash with no Ubisoft-style extended tutorial shenanigans. Free to start exploring the first few areas or push on with the storyline. The familiar components have been arranged in a way that is almost precisely to my liking, feeling like the end result of open-world games' slow metamorphosis into full-fledged RPGs. In my time with the game, there was very little that felt completely new, but even less that didn't feel good. One last preview spot for you guys. This is from VG247.com. It feels like Rise of Rōnin was taking notes from Elden Ring, a perfect implementation of the open world setup and a hardcore action RPG, and more like Team Ninja was looking to the west at Ubisoft, at BioWare, at Avalanche. That's not a bad thing per se, it just doesn't really gel with the Team Ninja way of doing things. Rise of the Rōnin shines in its condensed, focused missions and loses its way in the empty fields and sparsely populated villages of its open world. Maybe that's a comment on the nature of Rōnin's innate loneliness, a metaphor for the solitary journey of a samurai without a master. It just feels in these opening hours like a bit of a step down from the punchy, in-your-face doggedness of Team Ninja's past efforts. So that's 4 different previews from 4 different publications. It seems to be mostly positive across the board. Of course, I chose one that I was a little more negative towards the end. The vibes I'm getting from this, and I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. I don't know Team Ninja like a lot of other developers, but this kind of seems like them trying to step into something a little bit bigger. I know they did Neo, I believe, beforehand, and this kind of seems like them trying to maybe move into a AAA massive direction, something that could be mass marketed more than like Neo. And I see that with kind of some of the comments I saw here about like, oh, it's open world, there's lots to do, lots of it's very familiar, but it's also good. But it kind of loses some of the in-your-face doggedness, it says here in the VG247 of Team Ninja's past efforts. So for me, this is a game that I would probably get day one if we had nothing else to play. Like, it looks good to me. It looks like something I would enjoy. PS5 exclusive, high quality. But because I have so much going on, I don't plan to. I could definitely be convinced. I'm interested to see where this game lands with scores. I'm getting very 8 vibes, which is great.
Right.
I'm not getting from any of these previews like it's going to be the next best thing ever, but very good. I don't know. Let's go over to you first, Josh, because you're first episode you've been on here. What do you think of Rise of the Rōnin, and what's your interest?
Yeah. So I'm not gonna get this game at least at launch, but man, it does look very cool. I'm looking at some gameplay now, even just for a quick refresher, and I just love me some samurai wielded goodness. Some ponytail angst, and man, it just looks fun. It looks like a Ghost of Tsushima, but a Soulsborne version of that. Is that kind of what it is? Is that accurate?
Yeah. I think that's pretty much, yeah.
Okay. I mean, it looks very cool, and I mean, just some of the kills you see, some of the animations. I mean, it looks like a fun game. Honestly, if I had to say one reason why I'm probably not going to get it at launch, it's just because it's just open world. And it just
more open
forever.
world,
yeah. But that's not a bad thing. It's just a lot across the board of that. But man, this game still looks genuinely cool to me.
It kind of seems like they were alluding to maybe that's one of the pitfalls of it is doing open world. Do we know if this is a full price game, Joe? I think it is.
As far as I'm aware, it's
I'm pretty sure it is as well.
You can pet cats.
Yeah.
that usually sells a few copies on its own. You can pet
people have said it's one of the best parts of the game so far.
I just saw it. It looks very cool. Neat.
Don't you find it fascinating? I mean, I'm not going to tangent too hard here, but don't you find it fascinating how open world has become a bane of many people's excitement for video games rather than an enticing mechanic like it once was when it first kind of became a thing?
For sure.
It's fascinating, right?
It's in every game, so it's like because I mean, there's different levels of nerddom, but because I would say I can't speak for you, Joe, but I would say Josh and me typically play 4 or 5 new games a year. I don't know what Josh will do this year. I'm not sure what you did last year, Josh, but you just play one last year? Well, you at least bought a couple.
I'm just Josh. Yeah. Just being a little goofy goober.
We're more in the half a dozen or less a year camp.
For sure.
But that's still way, way more than your one Call of Duty, one Madden type guy. Yeah. And then you have what used to be me and Josh maybe 10 plus years ago, which was 12, 15 plus games a year, which is really heavy into it. So I think even at our stage of having half a dozen or less a year, if most of those games are open world, it kind of feels I don't have time for this, and I'd like some variation, especially if you're in that 12 to 15 camp. But
right, I get.
But yeah. Go ahead, Josh. Yeah.
No, but I think you're both right. I'm part of that problem like Joe was talking about, because I used to be that person that was wouldn't this be so much cooler if it was open world? And then so many games became that, and I'm whoa, now I don't have time to play all of you. So,
but I think then the cool thing is, though, if you're somebody who just buys 1 or 2 games a year, if your 1 or 2 game a year is open world, that might be really special. If you're getting just Starfield for the year or just Baldur's Gate for the year,
it's a good point.
Or even a Spider-Man 2, which I know is pretty short, but it's kind of open world-ish. Because I know a lot of people, they buy Madden and Call of Duty, and then they branch out for Spider-Man, because Spider-Man just manages to weave its way into that mainstream crowd. So I think it's fun when you don't have every game like that. But, I can speak for, Nerva in the Discord, our friend David. He's been having some struggles with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because it's this huge open world checklisty thing. And, he's the biggest Final Fantasy guy ever, but once again, here's another 100+ hour open world thing. So, but Joe, are you excited? Will you pick this up? What's your experience with Team Ninja? I'm
very excited. I kind of go way back in the sense with Team Ninja with the Ninja Gaiden reboot, sixth generation video games. Ninja Gaiden Black and the original Ninja Gaiden, and then 2 and then 3 and so on. Obviously, they did the Dead or Alive stuff. They did Hyrule Warriors. And what I find fascinating about this game is that it's coming out a year after Wolong Fallen Dynasty, which is a pretty incredible feat, because Wolong Fallen Dynasty was it was AAA. It was a big game, and they've pumped out this game a year later, and the development has been assisted by a Sony team, a Sony studio, but I'm excited for it. It looks absolutely incredible. I love how it's got kind of a combination of that sort of old Japan, that Edo Japan, and then you got kind of the industrialization and the modernization with the black powder and stuff like that. It looks so cool, dude. And I understand where that criticism comes from which was the publication that said it.
VG 24/7.
Yeah, I understand because, like, I mean, the whole history of Team Ninja is that it's linear. Like, there's a lot of linearity with their games, and this is the first time they're properly, truly branching out into something of this scale. You know, that can be that's kind of punching above its weight. But yeah, I'm excited for this game. It looks absolutely fire. I love like Japanese history. I love Ghost of Tsushima. You know, it's dope stuff. I'm excited. I hope it gets good reviews. I hope it's great for everyone. Yeah, let's do it.
Is this a day one buy for you?
I wouldn't say it's a day one buy for me just because it's quite soon, and I've still got so many games on the backlog. You know, like I still have to do all the Final Fantasy stuff, but I'll be picking it up and supporting it when I can. So yeah.
Joe,
I think they're doing something.
I gotta say
right.
real quick, your beard looks phenomenal.
Thank you.
Every time you're talking, I'm just like you won't know this the whole episode, but I'm gonna be staring at that beard a lot of the time. Like, that thing's beautiful.
I said something to Joe. I said something to Joe like last week about like having to wear a beard cover at work because I work in a hospital. And Joe was kind of like, "But you don't really have a beard, do you?" And I'm like, "Okay, I understand. I don't have like a big beard, but like this is still facial hair, right? Like this still needs covered. You know what I mean?"
I don't notice
all
it.
have your God of War Kratos beard.
Well, the reason I don't notice it is because it's tidy, dude. Like, it's tidy.
It's very
Mine's
tidy.
not. I'm just kind of like here.
Oh, well, it looks tidy. Wow.
Yeah, it looks good, Joe.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think they're doing something right with Rise of the Ronin because I had never had any interest in Ninja Gaiden. I've never had any interest in Neo, and this is a game that if I simply didn't have enough to do, I'm buying it day one. It just looks like something that I want to play this on my PS5. Looks great. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this does. I wonder if I had to guess. I think this will become a franchise, but I have a sneaking suspicion that this will kind of get lost in the discussion by the time we get to Game Awards.
Yeah, I think so.
So hopefully not.
It's got a great title. I think it's got a great title.
Yeah, it's badass.
It's very cool. Very cool.
Hi there. Thank you so much for sticking with us up until this point in the episode, whether via audio or video. We greatly appreciate it. Now, if you're new here, make sure you join the Sacred Icon Discord. We'd love to have you there. Talk all things pop culture or just talk about general life stuff. Make sure you join. We're always listening. We're always open to that stuff. And I'd also be remiss to not mention the Sacred Icon podcast. That's obviously available on Spotify, Apple, Google, etc., etc. That is hosted by Brian and Josh. They have an amazing chemistry that is irreplaceable, and it can never be emulated. They talk all things from movies, to video games. It's a great time. And definitely go check that out. All those links for the Discord and the Spotifys and everything are down below / on screen now if you're watching. But anyways, back to the episode.
Moving on to our next news article. So last year, System Shock got a remake, and it came out for PC only. I know Joe picked this up, played through it, loved it. And for a lot of us in our community, we're waiting for this game to come to console. It's a first-person shooter, but I think that's probably glossing over what it really is just to say it's a first-person shooter. But I'm going to pass it over to Joe. System Shock comes to all consoles May 21st, 2024. Joe, what do you think of this? Explain what System Shock is, what type of remake it is. Is it just a remaster? Is it a remake? And what your experience with it was?
Yeah, so System Shock has been remade by Night Dive, who's done Dark Forces recently, remastered that, but this is a full-blown remake from the ground up, and it's... so System Shock is essentially what, at the time, was not known, but it kind of, in many ways, invented a subgenre called immersive sim. And you start off as a hacker, and you get enrolled into this whole, conspiracy debacle thing where you have to shut down this AI showdown behind the scenes, and this all happens within the first hour, and then you get chucked on the station where this AI sort of lives and bolsters and operates, and everything's gone to shit. You wake up, there's cyborgs everywhere, it's spooky, it's scary, it's incredible. It's an amazing game, and all of the mechanics play into resource management, very similar to kind of survival horror works with Resident Evil and stuff. Yeah, you can interact with a lot of things in the environment, different levers and stuff, opening different passageways. It has kind of a Metroidvania-esque thing about it where you return to old areas and stuff. And it's honestly one of the best remakes I've ever played. The art style is incredible, where it has this amazing close-up weird thing where if you go close to a texture, it's really pixelated, but at a distance it looks immaculate, like it's some incredible AAA blockbuster video game, and it plays with your mind, but it's so good. The level design is incredible. The weapon variety, the you start off like really depowered, you know, like you kind of creeping around corridors, like kind of figuring out what's going on, hearing weird sounds, and it's genuinely kind of a horror game at the start, and there's parts where it like makes you jump, and then you start to build yourself up, find new weapons, find new abilities, hack into things, start to get a feel for everything, and it's just so good. Like the story's fun, there's lots of audio logs. I mean, it's literally the inspiration for BioShock, you know, with the environmental storytelling and stuff, and it's so good. But this coming to consoles is great, because I remember when this came out on PC and everyone was like, oh, I really want to play this, but obviously I gotta wait. Get it, pick it up. Like, for me, it's a solid 9-10 out of 10 experience. Like, I can't think of anything it needs to do better.
Do you think fans, like people who are listening to this who are just fans of BioShock, would they necessarily like this game because of BioShock?
100%. 100%. Really easy to get into.
Okay. That's the interesting thing, because like for me, I enjoyed all the BioShock games. I enjoyed Dishonored 1, which I know is kind of in that immersive sim category. But I looked into this game heavily when it came to PC, and I very much felt like my basic ass is going to need more guidance than this game offers, because you just don't have any idea what to do or where to go in this game. There's no pointer, nothing.
You have to figure it out, but there are ways that it does enough to hold you by a sort of ghost hand, not necessarily a
You said there are ways, and my first thought was, yes, guides that I do.
well, yeah, if you want to. There was times where I use guides. Like, don't feel like ashamed because of that, you know? That's what they're there for, so...
what about you, Josh? Are you interested in this at all? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it won't be a day one buy or anything, but I mean, man, Joe, so well spoken, selling me on the game. I'm watching gameplay as you're talking, and I'm just like, this seems awesome. And when you're talking about the graphics, how, you know, far away they look incredible, and then you get up close and it shows a little bit of the warts, I guess you could say, maybe. I love when games do that, though, because I mean, I've done that as far back as the Halo games, where far away I'm like, that look good, that looks so good, and then I get up close and I'm like, oh, okay.
That's some trickery, baby.
Yeah, but I love it, though. I love that stuff. And I'm watching gameplay of this now. I love the lighting in this game, in these corridors and stuff. I love some of the weaponry. They all look so unique. There was one that looked like a laser blade, like almost like a lightsaber, basically. Man, it does look very fun. And this is Night Dive. You said the people who did the remaster for Dark Forces. Boy, I can see some of that in there. Yeah,
it's their first ever remake, I believe, because the rest have just been remasters, right? This is the first ever remake.
Yeah, this was a crazy thing. But one thing I will say as well is, even though the villain, the antagonist, is an AI that is just an overseer, kind of, she very much, in terms of the gameplay, plays a GM role in many ways, where she kind of like spawns things in the environment and stuff as you go through, and like makes things hard for you. And her like voice actress, Terry Brosius, I think it is. She's incredible. She like constantly like pitches into you and calls you insect and all this stuff, and gets in your mind and stuff, like plays games with you. It's so good. It's so good.
Now,
what a flirt.
Tell me if this is correct, Joe. My history of knowledge with System Shock is that System Shock 1 was made. It inspired Ken Levine, who then joined the studio that made System Shock 1 and led System Shock 2. System Shock 2 was a bigger success, and then that led him to going on to do BioShock.
Bang on.
Correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a really awesome piece of history. Once again, it's on my list of things like I like Rise of Rōnin that I'm interested in. I could pick up, but it might not be right away because I have so much else to play. We just live in that's something I'd love to talk about on maybe a Sacred Icon episode proper for an hour or so. It's just how we live in a time with so many high quality games. I know there's lots to bitch about with microtransactions and closed studios and stuff like that, but there's so many high quality games. Just we're inundated with.
There is, man. I'm at a point where I feel like I'm realizing I'm just not going to be able to play every game now. Like, I'm at that stage of acceptance, and what I'm not going to be able to replay every game and all that stuff. But I look at games like this that are coming out, and it gets me excited. There's still so much new stuff that gets me excited. I don't have to look back, but there's such a breadth of stuff to look back on, and this will be one of those games I feel like if I don't play right away, and see the buzz pick up for it with a lot of people having a good time, it may make me put some stuff aside to go jump into this. I love how it looks.
I feel like the first half of this year is borderline on par quality with 2023, because
seems that way, doesn't it?
I think by the end of May we're getting Hellblade 2, and there's several other games around that time, June. The first 6 months, it's just like like me and Josh talked about before, it's 2023 continued. So
Yeah.
this is very cool to see. I would like to definitely pick it up for my console at some point.
I love that blade. He's slashing and dashing.
Yeah.
It just reeks of style in all the best
Yeah.
ways.
It reeks of awesomeness. I like
Music's really good as well.
I like it. Oh, really? Okay. Okay. I like
Moving on to our last story. It's kind of 3 stories that I'm going to combine into one because they're all very much similar. So I'll be talking for just a bit and then I'll get over to these guys. But basically there's 2 new studios that have been announced to be opening in the gaming industry and one that's closed. And we're going to talk about that real quick. So first one is the Star Wars Jedi series. The director that left after Survivor, his name was, I might mispronounce it, I'm going to try not to, Stig Asmussen?
Yep.
it. For effort.
Yeah, he worked at Respawn, was the director behind Survivor, left, and is now starting up a AAA studio with a bunch of other Respawn developers called Giant Skull. And they are going to work on a game similar to the Jedi series. From what I read, it says Giant Skull's first untitled project is a AAA single-player focused action adventure built in Unreal Engine 5. And what's his name here again? It is Stig. Yeah, so Stig goes on to say, we have assembled a talented team renowned for immersive storytelling, heroic combat, and exhilarating traversal, and our goal is to craft a rich universe that players will come to want to lose themselves in for years on. So there's more I can read from that, but I'm going to go to a couple other stories before we get into the topics here. But very exciting. Giant Skull sounds like it's going to be awesome. I'm always a little worried. We'll get into this. I'm a little worried about when a famous head or industry dev goes and creates his own thing and jumps immediately into AAA. We saw that with like the Callisto Protocol, which kind of failed. There was another big game that
failed.
Yeah, which very much failed. There's another game that failed too. I can't recall what it was. But basically this idea of like, oh, well, they've done something great before. Let's jump right into AAA development, and then boom, it's over. So we'll come back to that. Sadder news, PlayStation partnered studio made up of ex-Call of Duty devs, Deviation Games, has closed. They did not ever get out a single title in the time since they were established, and now they're closed. It says, it is with a heavy heart that we announce the closure of Deviation Games. The post from Deviation Chief HR Officer Christy Stoll reads, I want to express my deepest gratitude to our entire team. Thank you for all your hard work, dedication, and contributions to Deviation. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have worked with each and every one of you. So it says the AAA studio was initially formed on the heels of the pandemic-led gaming boom, which is probably why this is closing, boasting over 100 employees within its first year of operation. But yeah, they never managed to get anything off the ground, and now they're closed. Very sad, very unfortunate. And last piece that kind of ties into this whole like studio thing we're talking about is Mick Gordon, who did these soundtracks for Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, but then had a colossal fallout with Bethesda over some issues of what's being done with his music and miscommunication. And I mean, that's a whole other podcast in itself, but I mean, we can talk about that a little bit. But the TLDR for me is it seems like Mick got screwed over to me by Bethesda for sure. But we can talk about that. But Mick Gordon is going on to announce the brand new studio that he's a part of called Empty Vessel. We are a brand new studio focused on immersive shooter experiences. In due time, we will reveal the system. Until then, join us at emptyvessel.io. So, Empty Vessel, cool name for a studio. It's interesting whenever I see like a, what's that? Empty Vessel. I mean, it's kind of basic, but it also works.
I'm not hating on it. I'm just playing around. I just love the different names studios come up with.
I just think it's interesting that Mick Gordon's kind of the one that's like headlining, like as it's him who's doing the studio because he is behind the music, and that's not usually where you see
the figurehead,
the lead of a new studio come from. But the studio is made up of ex-id Software, Naughty Dog, and Activision developers, so that could be exciting. So basically, we have Empty Vessel from Mick Gordon, and we have Giant Skull from Stig. And then the closure of Deviation Games.
The most normal name.
Deviation. Yeah. If you're not weird, Josh, why don't you go ahead first? We're going to try to wrap this up in the next 6 minutes. What do you think about? Do any of these studios opening, closing interest you? Any other bigger picture thoughts on the industry? Whatever you want to say.
Sure. Bummer for Deviation. I mean, it's just people there that got to relocate. I always feel bad for any time that happens anywhere, right? Because just the friendships that probably form there. and having to say goodbye to that. But Giant School seems exciting. I mean, I always love when new studios pop up. Same thing with new games, new movies, new anything. It's just nice to see new ones in the fold amidst old ones. You see a lot of Bethesda's reputation these days in some ways, and whereas they were always quality for people, and now for some people are kind of split down the middle with them. So it's just nice to see new. I don't know, just new ones popping up to really offer something different and see what they can do. But like you said too, Brian, it's a great point. I mean, some of them come out and then they just DOA, kind of dead on arrival. Their games get hyped as all get out and then they turn out to be a big wet fart. But we'll see. I mean, the bummer for me is I guess it's going to take forever to see what they're working on. Yeah. But optimistic for them. Feel bad for DBH.
Oddly enough, Respawn itself was this situation. It was Activision screwed over the leaders of Call of Duty so many years ago. They went and started Respawn. Then Titanfall came from that. So you saw, now Respawn's like a top tier developer. Sure. So it could go a good direction. But yeah, like we mentioned before, sometimes these things just don't get off the ground. Did you have any interest in Mick Gordon's? Because like Josh, I know you like the Doom games, but I would guess maybe it's a little bit of a stretch for you to get hyped for like the Doom games that you like that aren't your favorite games in the world. Yeah, the guy who made the music for that starting a studio.
It's still a very cool thing. I mean, look, it's very cool that after what he had go on. I mean, he's rebounding with this. I think that's very, very cool. I do remember that stuff coming out around. Was it Doom Eternal? Was what the controversy was?
That's when the whole thing kicked off. It didn't really come out into the PR stuff. It didn't really get out into the public till a year or two later.
Right. Okay. But yeah, no, very, very cool. Just the name cracks me up. It's like Taking Back Sunday. 3 Days Grace, all that remains.
Empty vessel.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, very, very cool, man. Just nice to see new stuff popping up. The stuff, you can't count on just the tried and true stuff to be quality forever. And you want to see new blood. You want to see new studios arise, especially in this industry that's so you can't really depend on anything. It seems like. So it's exciting to see new stuff happen for sure.
Absolutely. I like to see that there's new studios being opened as news against all the layoffs, right? Because that way it feels to me like something good is being born out of something horrible rather than just like they're laid off and we don't see any new fruits popping up anywhere. But Joe, the floor is yours. What do you have to say about these studios?
Keep it short and sweet. I mean, it's great that, Stig has now got the Giant School thing going on. I mean, very much, Titanfall 2-esque in terms of what they're seemingly describing what this future game under the studio will be. I'm very excited for that. I mean, Stig's a fantastic game director and obviously game developer. Hell yeah, love it. It's a sad time for the what's it called? PlayStation partnered studio Deviation. Like they came out, I think, on Summer Game Fest, I think, or was it Gamescom opening night live? I can't remember. And they spoke with Jeff on stage about this new amazing thing, and obviously Jason Blundell was there, but he actually left that studio, if I remember correctly, in 2022, I think. And once your main figureheads leave, I feel like a lot of that comes crashing down. They're so important to the morale of that studio and stuff. I can only imagine what Striking Distance Studios is like now without what's his name, Glenn Schofield. Yeah, it's a shame, but in many ways, this is kind of a warning for new studios not to kind of jump feet first into some pretty big budget titles, regardless of whether you are attached to PlayStation or big names in entirely, because it can still go wrong. And I heard whisperings, I don't know if it's confirmed, but the PlayStation, they weren't fully connected with PlayStation, once, around 2022, 2023 onwards. I don't know how true that is, but there was kind of rumblings in the force per se. And then for the Empty Vessel, the system game, I love the art they've used. It looks very RoboCop-y and stuff. I love that shit. It looks badass, very dystopian. The only thing I will say is that people might be kind of worried now that Mick's never going to reprise his role under id / doing Doom music, which a lot of people will definitely miss. But he said explicitly that he's not done with Doom. Regardless, he's done with id, or he's quit that toxic side of id. but I don't think he's entirely done. So like, if anyone's worried about that, don't be, because I feel like he'll be back in some form to do something.
Well,
Doom
Mick's work's incredible. I don't want to diminish that,
Yeah.
but they have put many tracks in like the Doom games DLC and stuff.
Yeah.
That's done by people that aren't him, and they're killer as well. So they've already found a way to release music that sounds like it's on the same kind of beat, and it works really well. I would say out of these three, well, obviously Deviation's closing, but like Giant Skull, a lot of faith in that coming up from that director, from the Respawn history and what they're trying to create. I don't have as much faith in Mick Gordon's thing, but I also don't really know a lot. I mean, I don't know much about Giant Skull either, but I just, for some reason, I have less faith in that. But it says ex Naughty Dog devs, ex Respawn devs, so it could be something really good.
Was there any clue as to what the type of game Deviation was working on? I mean, was it a live service game?
Probably something we did know at one point.
I assume it was something shooter oriented, but I don't think they even revealed much.
Okay.
Like,
No.
I'm just going to assume it was live service. That makes me an ass.
Well, it makes sense because
assumption.
It makes sense because at the end it says Sony was set to partner with Deviation on its debut game. Is one of the many companies in the industry that has been cutting back on costs in the last year, including canceling projects having to do with live service games. And it says that PlayStation halved
there it is.
Their live service games in half and cut 900 jobs. So this was probably something live service. It probably was.
Yeah.
That sucks. Then again, I take back what I said. Maybe those people there were like, thank God, I'm free from my shackles of live service.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
You never know.
all right, guys, do you have any final thoughts on System Shock or Rise of the Rōnin or any of these studios? Any kind of closing thoughts?
No.
Joe? No.
I think it's been a pretty good news day. I cut out a few things. I mean, we had something to say about Halo today and how MCC is not getting patched any longer. It's not getting updated. It's done.
No,
But
what a shame.
no time to talk about those things. So
Patch that gold out.
Yeah,
I'm
the
yelling
gold
from the
font.
rafters like that Meryl Streep meme. Patch that gold out. Patch it out.
why is there gold font?
I don't like it. It was like first you do the blue helmet. Now you do the gold font.
Sense, yeah.
You know?
Can't get it right.
Yeah, can't get it right.
But yeah, I think Rise of Rōnin looks really exciting. I'll probably pick up System Shock at some time, and I look forward to seeing one of these AAA games from these new studios in 6 to 7 years.
Oh, yeah.
Very exciting times, though. Like you said, Brian, it just seems like it's a very big continuation of last year. I mean, we thought it was going to be kind of cut and dry with a handful of stuff coming out, but man, amazing.
Sweet.
Amazing momentum.
On to more fun times in 2024. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Sacred Games Daily. And as always, keep it sacred daily.
Peace.